Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 26, 2022 Development Review Commission hearing. The Development Review Commission is created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications, where the Commission has recommendatory power, and to render final decisions on specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including but not limited to all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognizes that the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, businesses, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning. By promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that is therefore considered to be in the best interests of public health, safety, and general welfare. Any person aggrieved by a final decision of the Development Review Commission may file an appeal to the City Council within 14 calendar days after the Development Review Commission has rendered its decision. Development Review Commission recommendations to the City Council are not final decisions. With us this evening, we have brand new Commissioner Joseph Forte, Michelle Schwartz. Joining us remotely is Commissioner Don Casano. I'm Chairman Mike DiDomenico. Also with us is returning Commissioner Andrew Johnson, Linda Spears, alternate Commissioner Rhiannon Corbett, and also sitting for vote on our first two items on our agenda will be alternate Commissioner Charles Redmond. With us in staff, timely, very timely, is Director Jeff Tamulevich, Ryan Levesque, Steve Abrahamson, Saparna Dasgupta, Lee Jimenez, Karen Stovall, Joanna Berry, and Eddie Garcia running comms today. One of our commissioners is attending the meeting remotely, so every once in a while we may get a little off track as I make sure that we're including Don Casano and not missing any comments or votes that he has for us. Let's take you through tonight's agenda. We have a few items that we're going to do out of order. The first thing that we did in our pre-session is we elected amongst ourselves a new vice chairperson, and that is Commissioner Andrew Johnson, who will be taking over that role going forward. The next two items we're going to handle are approval of our meeting minutes. We, in study session, went over those minutes, and we will vote on those. There were no changes or edits. We have one item, item number 4, which is a use permit request for enchiladas at 2019 West Baseline Road. Is there anyone here in the audience who is here specifically to be heard on that case? All right. Oh, we do have someone. And have you put a card up to the front? Do you have one of those to show? Perfect. Just turn those in, and that way we won't miss you, and we'll make sure. There we go. We'll get you one just so we don't miss you when that case comes up.
Chairman, just so you know that the ADOT meeting is over now.
Okay. We're going to move that item to after our consent agenda, and we will hear that case right before the Emerald, item number 7, Emerald Multifamily. The rest of the items will be heard in their listed order. We have proposed 2 cases for our consent agenda. The intention of the commission is to vote on those 2 cases in one vote. It's our intention to vote on them in the affirmative, meaning that we will approve those. So at this point in time, I'm looking for anyone in the audience who are here to be heard on either item number 5 or 6, Tempe Bouldering or Brick and Barley. Is anyone here to be heard on those? Okay, seeing none, Those will remain on our consent agenda and will be handled in one vote. That leaves items 7, 8, 9, and 4, which we will all have public hearings for. And if you wish to be heard on any of those cases, you need to turn in one of those little white cards that you can find in the back of the room or up here in the front. So thank you very much. All right. Consideration of meeting minutes. These are the study session and regular minutes for June 26th, 28th, 2022. Do I have a motion for approval? Linda.
I move for the approval of the study session and regular meeting minutes for 6/28.
And Don, you were at that meeting. You want to second those? All right, we've got a second from Don Casano. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Yep. So Linda, Mike, Chuck, and Don all vote for approval. Everyone else here in attendance, all the other commissioners are abstaining because they were not present for those meetings. So those minutes are approved 4-0. Next is our consent agenda. Do we have a motion for approval? Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda? It's been moved by Linda Spears.
Second.
It's seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And Don's hand is raised, so the consent agenda is approved unanimously, 7-0. All right, that brings us to item number 4 on the agenda, the case for enchiladas. Do we have a member of the applicant? There we go. Just name and city of residence for the record.
Andrea Lukowitz, Phoenix, Arizona. My name is Andrea Lukowitz. I represent the Grossman Properties that owns the enchiladas, as well as the Arizona Grand Resort, with which I think you are familiar. Arizona Grand Resort actually sits in the city of Phoenix. The property, immediately north across the canal is in the city of Tempe. They've operated the restaurant and the resort for many years, since 2006. They're trying to combine these into one license. It's a Series 6 liquor license. It would not change anything about the operations currently at Enchiladas. It is operated as a restaurant for many years and will continue to do so. The request is to make it more, a seamless operation between the two. In addition to the Series 6 license, the space is, if you've been, you might know, is quite charming, kind of an oasis in a very surprising, busy area. And so it has become more popular for private events, family, corporate, smaller sizes. There are 3 buildings at the restaurant, none of which are very big, and are all kind of broken up in smaller areas. Those 3 buildings surround a courtyard that is walled with stucco walls, and maybe the biggest ficus tree I've ever seen on the north side of the property to shade it and shield any outside interference. The parking lot is large. It can accommodate all that is required. There's additional property to the east that is not yet developed, and there's no plans for that. But all they want to be able to do is continue the normal operations that they have to serve their guests, to be able to provide that seamless experience for their guests. If you leave the resort now, if you're at the resort and you want to walk, and that's how most of their guests get there, there's a beautiful shaded sidewalk that leads through the back, across the canal, and then onto the property. We don't expect any noise to exceed any of the ambient conditions that they have in the past. If a person were to have a private party there, they're not going to have big bands. They're not going to have all day long anything. It's just specific to an event. And certainly, these owners are very sensitive to the neighbors and want to work with them, certainly would continue to carry on any communications necessary.
Questions from the commission? Commissioner Spears.
Did I hear you say correctly that the restaurant bar is in Tempe and the license is in Phoenix?
Correct.
So how is that going to work that we can have, how do we deal with that?
So for operationally, it doesn't matter that it crosses the line. What does matter is that any of the activities that take place at Enchiladas will remain part of Tempe. So all of the revenue and taxes due for activities at Enchiladas will be reported and remain part of Tempe.
So you kind of touched on one of my concerns or questions. I'm familiar with the site. It's been years since I've been on the restaurant property. But as an event center for the hotel, for the resort, guests will come kind of down the hill towards baseline. And you mentioned nice shady sidewalks. There aren't any. There are no sidewalks there. There is some shade. There's ficus trees that kind of line the main entrance off of baseline. But my concern is, where do these people walk safely to get to the site?
There is a walkway that comes from the lobby and conference areas. I actually have a picture of it on my phone. I saw it, I went by there just the other day to confirm. There is, I believe it's called the Canyon something room, and it comes down from Arizona Grand Parkway. It cuts off and then comes, let's see.
So you're
where
talking,
these trees are. Okay.
you're talking about something that kind of cuts through the vacant land that's not on the streets,
That's exactly right.
not the public right of way.
It's actually a quiet walk there. So where you see on the picture you're showing, South Branch Highline Canal, so under the S, there's trees. Those have grown now. They're much larger, and it's actually quite a charming walk there, if there is such a thing in a hot desert.
Yeah. And is that walkway, I've never seen it or come from that direction to get to the restaurant, is that big enough for, say, a golf cart or the carts that they run around the resort where they run the guests around? Is it big enough to use for a cart?
I don't know the answer to that. I want to say yes, it's wide enough for people to walk, and I don't know how big a golf cart is, but certainly there's, if it's not on the sidewalk, certainly there's room along the path.
Okay, good, thank you, that's helpful. Other questions, Commission? Don, anything from you? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stay close in case something else comes up. We'll have staff come up and add to this. Lee, thank you.
Good evening, Chair DiDomenico, members of the Commission. My name is Lee Jimenez. I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. So just to go over some of the facts of the case. So Enchiladas has been operating there, well, since the Gap recently, but they had been in operation since the mid-'80s, around 1987. So it's an existing Mexican restaurant. It's in CSS zoning. The owner is Arizona Grand Resort. And like the applicant has mentioned, they want to extend their existing liquor license onto the site. And so for the record, they are requesting 2 use permits. The first is a use permit to allow a bar because of their Series 6 license proposal. And then the use permit to allow entertainment for both indoor and outdoor. And the entertainment is proposed in the courtyard area. So once we go to the slides with the site plan and the floor plan, well, here it is right here. So the courtyard area, it's kind of a little pixelated based on my copy and pasting, but so you'll see existing building A, existing B on the south end, just above the Highland Canal area. And then there's a building C and then the fountain on the northeast corner. So the area where the entertainment is to be provided is a courtyard enclosed, surrounded by buildings. And so this request did not require a neighborhood meeting, although we did advertise since it's a public hearing item. And I did receive 2 phone calls and 4 emails in opposition. And then another email that requested a continuance for this item for more time to review the application. I did contact Tempe Police to see if there were any calls for service in this area the last 4 years. And they said there really wasn't anything that was out of the ordinary for both the resort area and the Enchiladas site. So they don't have any records of calls for service that are out of the ordinary over the past 4 years. And we do have some unique conditions of approval. There's just one provided at the end, condition number 4, which is just to provide the required amount of bicycle spaces per code, which looking at the site, I don't think there were any since it opened up. So that's why I included that condition. And I'm available to answer any questions that you have concerning the request and any code requirements.
Commissioners, any questions? I saw a theme in tonight's packet of requesting electric vehicle chargers. You didn't ask them to throw any of those in with the bicycle spaces?
Okay,
No.
we'll see.
All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to call to the audience. We have one card. Do we have that? Lee, did you? You do have a card? Is there anybody else from the audience? We have one member of the public that wishes to be heard. And no
Steve,
one online, right?
no
Nobody's-
one online that we are aware of from registration. Steve, did you want to read the comments on record that we received so far?
Charity D'Amico, the person from the audience no longer wishes to provide comment.
Look at you, you answered their questions already. Very well done.
Maybe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, Steve, read the, any comments appropriate in.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll start with the longest one. This is from Barb Brooks regarding Enchiladas PL 210336. She resides on West Desiree Lane. Hi, Lee. We have a conflict with scheduling. We have an ADOT contractor meeting before yours. Hoping to get a chance to listen to both. I'll skip ahead. I'm sorry. I'll preface by saying Enchiladas has been a good neighbor in forever. Other than traffic at events like Cinco de Mayo, packing the streets, parking lots at other businesses, it is not something that has happened on a regular basis. I think I will speak for a lot of neighbors. We were sad to see them shut down so long ago, and for sure happy to see them back. With that said, the current days times for the restaurants are Wednesdays through Sundays, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. With the updated resort status, will the hours and times follow number 2 in condition of approval, putting the hours at 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily? Lee, can you answer that? I'm sorry.
Sorry, what's the question?
The question is, with the updated hours, with the updated resort status, will the hours and times follow the number 2 condition of approval, putting the hours at 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily?
No, the condition provided in the report is a standard condition for bar operations, which is to end at 2 a.m. daily. Now, if we can always suggest a condition to limit those hours if needed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
She goes on to say, that seems like a lot, traffic-wise and perhaps noise-wise. We are always challenged by the amount of drivers taking the shortcut through the neighborhood, so additional activity is always a concern. Living here gives me more of a refined perspective of constant verbiage. Quote, proposed uses are not expected to significantly increase vehicular traffic. We're fully aware of I-10 and Broadway curve expansion. Under code ordinance requirements, the last bullet point regarding music, we realize there are building buffers around the courtyards, patios, and while recognizing that that helps, we don't know if it's up and running or whether it's an issue to the neighborhood. Sounds carry, especially bass, For example, in February of this year, there was an event with bands at Town Lake. The next door site was fraught with complaints as to where the music was coming from. Some residents in our neighborhood, as well as surrounding ones, also were out of their minds as to what was going on and how was that even allowed. We were told that it was the Innings Event Festival. Are we, while trying to congratulate Enchilada's promotional classification, going to be forced at some point to start complaining about excessively loud music, be it bands, DJs, or karaoke, and have us made out to be whiny neighbors? It's definitely concerning. Maybe if we had a preview of what to expect, we'd know, not to worry. As it is, we are sure about the noise/bass levels as our neighbors need to retire in the evening or get their children down for the night, and consider neighbors with PTSD or anxiety issues. A thought, the Arizona Grand occasionally sets off fireworks, beautiful displays. But when they started doing this, the noise was enough to send us either ducking for cover, chasing lost pets, or consoling families and anxious neighbors. For the last year, we've been fortunate to have an awesome, reliable source/employee at the Grand to inform us in advance. While it is difficult for some, there is plenty of time to prepare in advance, and it all has been much calmed down. We so appreciate when businesses work with us. Entertainment such as bands, etc., would not be a once every few months event. That makes sense. Even with notices, it could be challenging. Before the blessing is given, could there be a time frame, a 3 to 4 month probationary period regarding the entertainment part, and perhaps limited hours? Not to get into a battle of the bands on an all-day evening event. In closing, this may be something very profitable for the resort, and we don't even know it's there. That would be our hope, but we find it best to question in advance as good neighbors than to possibly argue in court later. Thank you for your time, Barb Brooks. Second email from Kathleen Niebauer. Good morning. I live behind the Fry's Electronics, and I hear that the restaurant is looking for a live entertainment permit. I have lived there many years and have been subjected to live music from the Arizona Grand in previous years. We also get the live music from Tempe Beach Park, and I will have to say no, capital N-O, to live music between 8 and 2 a.m. at the restaurant. These establishments have not regarded the neighbors in previous years, and I would rather vote no than have live music that will bother my sleep and those of the grandchildren who sleep here a lot. Thank you, Kathy Niabru. Next is from Noel Fontaine. Hello, Lee. Sending this email to vote no, capital N-O, on live bands at Enchiladas. Bars are open late and would be incredibly disruptive to our neighborhood full of sleeping children. Next up is from the Point Office Suites Condominium Association. Dear Mr. Jimenez, my firm, Torres Consulting and Law Group, located at 2239 West Baseline Road in Tempe 85283, is just one of several businesses located within the Point Office Suites, 221 through 2239 West Baseline Road, just west of Enchiladas at 2109 West Baseline Road. I serve as board president for the Point Office Suites Condominium Association, and we just became aware of Enchiladas is requesting 2 permits to allow bar and entertainment, comma, indoor and outdoor, end of comma, or quotes, at their Tempe location. The use permit schedule is for tomorrow, July 26, 2022, and we did not receive notice of this hearing. We hereby request a continuance of this hearing to allow us time to research the impact of granting such permits and what such permits would have on our business. We have significant concerns. You can reach me at blah, blah. This is signed by Israel G. Torres, Board President of the Point Office Suites Condominium Association. Next up is from, doesn't say, this is anonymous. The City of Tempe Development, I'm sorry. They neither oppose or support. I would like my comments read into the record. I would appreciate if outdoor entertainment and enchiladas is permitted. Amplified sound is only permitted Sunday through Thursday evenings from 9 to 10 p.m. rather than 2 a.m. Friday and Saturday nights aren't as concerning if they go until 2 a.m. It would be great too if they could let us know in the neighborhood north of the resort when there's going to be late night entertainment. Thank you. That's that. That's all of them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. One more call to the public. Anyone wish to be heard on this matter? Seeing, oh. Come on up. We'll, after you speak, we'll need to get a comment card if you haven't filled one out yet, just so we have your name and everything for the record.
Okay, good evening. My name is Dr. Taylor. I live in 4003 South Fowler Drive in Tempe. We've been there like 26 years. And me and my wife, we bought this house in 1996. And we bought the house in before they put the loop in the, off the 60 going to the 10. The first thing was the noise from there. That was years ago. We called ADOT, and the noise is everything has just been accumulating over the last 2 years. Then we get the point, setting up the fireworks. That started years ago. After that, we deal with the music of people frequenting and in the community where they have their parties and things like that. We deal with that. And then we also deal with the fact of Enchilada wants to do this here. So we've been dealing with the noise issue, I say, for 26 years now. If you just imagine if you got little kids getting up in the morning, I'm sure you have children too. I've been in education for a long time, and kids do not pretty much feel good not getting a good night's sleep. We've been dealing with that. And in the community as well. I talk to the people in the community all the time, and they say, hey, you know, it's not the same it was 26 years ago, because it's not. It's just not. But we are concerned about the noise. It's like every 15, 10 years, something is added to the community to where it's affecting the quality of the community that we've been living in for all these many years. Some people I know have disabilities. Some people are elderly. Some people that's been there longer than I have. And I know it's not good for them neither. So I'm just bringing the issue up front because it's not very, should I say, healthy mentally nor emotionally for people in that community. If you add this to it, you're adding another layer of issues that people have to contend with. People are not moving out of the community. We've been there for over 20 years, most of us. But it's not, and then to add this, no. And then you want to build a bridge right across in the community too. And we have transit sitting there off of Fry's Electronics. We have all type of issues with people in our alleys. Those type of things we deal with as well. People get up at night. Then we deal with gunfire, people shooting their guns off at times at night. So we have a host of issues that we deal with, and I don't think this is fair to the community as a whole to add another layer to this concern we have. And that's why I'm here about what you read about. That's from people in our community that you read. Thank you very much.
Questions? Your neighborhood, are you north of Baseline? Are you kind of in
I'm
tucked in
north of
behind
Baseline.
Fry's? Yeah,
I
so
don't
in
know
that Fry's Electronics area?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Good.
Yep, absolutely. And that's another issue if you really want to know the deal, because we have people who are setting fires on the edge of Fry's Electronics. We have people sitting sitting over where you're going to build a bridge at. They were. It was like we had a community sitting on in the water runoff for at least 4 or 5 months. And we have transits and everything else going in there. So we have a layer of issues. I've called the police many times. We had a house that was before it sold. It was turned into a crack house. We had to call about that. So all these things is not something I'm just bringing up. It's just things. If you look at the blotter on the Tempe police, you see everything I'm talking about is there. I'm just not making it up.
And have you had any luck when you've reached out, if you have, to the resort to
The
talk to
resort?
them about noise from their events?
No, we haven't. We haven't done that. We pretty much kind of like keep things quiet as much as we can. We have a community watch, which people pretty much do. But like I said, I've been there for a long time, and I'm in education. I know how it works, but at the same time, a lot of people just do not have the strength nor the time to do it.
Okay.
That's just the way it
One of
is.
the letters mentioned that there was a good employee over there, or somebody who was helpful, so I just wondered if you.
Well, we get that. We know that when the fireworks goes up, we can see that on the neighborhood thing. We see that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Other questions, Commission? Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you mentioned, concerns with the resort and other things. Have there been specific instances where you've noticed enchiladas specifically having excessive noise or events at that venue that have disturbed your neighborhood?
Well, in the past, we've had to deal with the concerts that was had over there at the point. But 2 years of COVID, things like that, things has been pretty mellow. But things will pick back up, and those are my concerns, because we can hear the noise if it comes from the park. And I'm on Windler. When you close off Windler, so we can hear it from the park. We can hear it from Enchilada. That's not even a problem, because the noise will travel, and that's just the facts. Because we have a big open area, and sound waves will travel.
Thank you.
Okay, you welcome.
Thank you very much.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it. Anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comments section of this proceeding. Other questions for the applicant? We'll bring the applicant back up. Can you come on back up? And you're also welcome to respond to anything you've heard, both from staff's presentation as well as the public.
Do you want me to respond now, or do you want me to end?
No, you could start off if you've got some things that are burning, and then Commissioner Spears has got a question for you.
We do understand that there have been some concerts in the past or some events at the resort that maybe were louder than they should have been. None of those events were coming from Enchiladas. That's what we know for sure. We also know that the owner is very concerned about being a good neighbor, and if there are issues they need to be aware of, we need to be told. And I understand that there is ongoing communication and an increase in that. They definitely want to engage with the community and make sure they're being good neighbors and not causing problems. So for Enchiladas itself, there are no concerts there. The music is limited to, again, a private event where you have a group and you might have 2 or 3 pieces together. Their current operating hours are 11 till 9 and 11 to 10, I think, on Friday and Saturday. For private events, say a wedding reception or something, that might go later, 11 or 12 o'clock. I don't think they ever believe they're going to be there till 2 o'clock in the morning. So they're not against saying, great, if quieting down at a certain hour makes sense, then that's fine too. Friday and Saturdays are a little busier, although everybody seems to be working different hours. Weekends don't seem to be the same for anyone anymore. So, but Friday and Saturday are probably the nights that, if anything, they would prefer to have a little later chance to serve. The office suites next door are just that. They're office suites. They're not there in the evening, as far as I know, unless there's someone working late, I suppose. But I'm not aware of anything specific as to what those issues would be related to Enchiladas operations.
Thank you. Other questions, Linda?
One of the letters indicated that the hours of operation, the days were it wasn't going to be 7 days a week or 6 days a week, why would the restaurant, if it's going to operate as normal restaurant, why would it not be open basically all the time?
Because it's a restaurant. I think Lee said, again, that's a standard call for 8 a.m. to 2 a.m., I think is what he said, for bars.
Right.
So, for instance, if you were going to have a brunch, let's say, or a early morning meeting, conference, you're going to have your group get together at 8 o'clock in the morning. So maybe you're going to have a band greet you as you walk into the courtyard.
Right, no, I'm sorry, that's,
I
my question
misunderstood.
is, do you not plan on having the restaurant open 6 or 7 days a week?
They would like to be open 7 days a week. This has just been a transition. They were closed for 2 years. They originally thought they were just going to try to use it as an event space, but really people have come back and the resort guests have asked to have a restaurant. They want to be able to go somewhere close and on property, and they really like that place. So they're expanding as they go. Right now it's Wednesday through Sunday. You're exactly right.
Commissioner Schwartz. Okay. Anyone else? Other questions? Would you or your client be amenable to reining in that 2 a.m. 7-day-a-week time limit to something that's more commercially neighborhood friendly? For example, 10 o'clock on all days, Friday, Saturday till midnight?
Yes, they would be.
Okay. And are you okay with revisiting the use permit 6 months down the road and coming back to see if there's been noise complaints?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lee, anything else that you'd want to share?
Just a couple of things I'd like to add. So the conference assembly use, that's allowed by right in the CSS zoning district, so they can have that on hand. And then now that if this is approved, they become a bar, and they have entertainment, there is another additional layer of security, because at this point, a security plan is required. So they would need to meet with Tempe Crime Prevention Unit and implement a security plan for the bar and the entertainment use as well. So that would have an additional layer of security or eyes on the operations as well. And then I just wanted to point the resort out, or the location out, and compare where the nearest residential areas. So if you could please continue on the slides until we get to the area photograph. I think it was at the beginning. Okay, so there's the area. The resort is just south of the baseline. It's that long, well, you see it with the black lines. The closest neighborhood, residential neighborhood, is just north of the Fry's Electronics building, which is that big white roof on your left-hand side of the aerial photograph. So there's condos there, and then further beyond that, single family, and that commercial, that lot to the east of that residential area, that's commercial office area. So there is some insulation of commercial uses between, but for the most part, yeah, that's the kind of the general idea of where it's located in comparison to the neighborhood. And then unless you have any other questions for me, if you want me to read into the record what our standard review of compliance condition is, I can do that, or and then also we can read into the record
I
what
would
the
like to
condition would
see
be.
us modify the condition number 2 of approval that just has the blanket 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. For entertainment 7 days a week. I'd like to see us rein that into something more similar to what we typically do with a staggered time based on days of the week. And then I'd like to see a revisit of the use permit 6 months from now for noise, just to see how it's working.
Okay, we can do that. So we can modify condition number 2 to outline that the hours of operation for the entertainment use shall end no later than midnight, Monday through Thursday, and then, 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then midnight on
Sunday through Thursday,
Sunday through Thursday, and then
Friday and Saturday 2 a.m.
okay, we can do that, and then we can also add the standard condition for the review compliance for a 6-month return period. So we'll condition that they return back to the commission for a review of compliance of the conditions and the operations.
Commissioners, does that fall in line with
Chairman,
what you're comfortable with?
in terms of the review, is that something staff can handle rather than having them come back to the commission unless there's an issue? But if
Yeah,
there's no
Saparna will
issue.
speak to it, but typically they will unless there was an issue.
Chairman, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that question? Would you like it modified to do an administrative review prior to
Administrative review
putting it on agenda? Okay.
Yes.
We have a condition for that. We can do that.
Okay. And applicant / client, are those conditions acceptable? All right, we can move forward with that.
For the record, she said yes.
Very good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Discussion, commissioners? Or a motion? Certainly. Ooh, Linda?
I move for the approval of PL 210336 with the additions that were just discussed.
A second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Spears and seconded by Commissioner Schwartz. As a reminder, we have modified we've modified one condition, Condition 2, to change the hours so that Sunday through Thursday we have a 10 p.m. limit, and on Fridays and Saturdays it would be 2 a.m. The 8 a.m. start time stays the same. And then there was a condition for a administrative review, and if necessary, a 6-month revisit by the commission if there were significant noise complaints or problems with these use permits.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. You said 2 a.m. Friday through Sunday. When you were discussing it with
Saturday.
the applicant, it was 12 a.m. It was a cutoff
Midnight,
for Friday through Sunday.
was that okay?
Is that?
Was midnight for Fridays and Saturdays okay?
Oh, I thought that's what I heard during the
Yeah.
the communication.
Yeah,
between-
that's
between
what I
the
was
applicant.
kind of pushing for, but, I'm starting to think about weddings and social events that sometimes go past midnight. So
Okay.
we'll leave those 2 days at 2 a.m. All right, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And Commissioner Casano remotely is raising his hand, so that motion carries unanimously 7-0. Thank you very much for coming in, participating. Members of the public, thank you very much for being a part of the process. Again, reach out to the resort. If you're seeing problems, get them in the record. If it's a serious noise complaint, let the non-emergency line, the police department know. It is a Tempe property. Don't call, I'm not saying call on noise that's happening up at the resort because that's not Tempe, but we want to know about it so that in 6 months from now, we know if they've been doing what they said they would. Thank you very much. This brings us to item number 7. Item number 7 is a request for an amended planned area development overlay, a use permit to allow residential use in an RCC zoning district, and a DPR for a new 5-story multifamily development consisting of 591 dwelling units on 16.8 acres. This is Emerald Multifamily.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. It's nice to be back here, frankly, in person and see some old faces and see some new faces. So, thank you for pulling up the presentation. It's wonderful. Thank you. My pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of Davis Development. Davis is based in Atlanta, Georgia. They're a high-end luxury apartment builder. They've developed and managed over 75,000 units, very experienced. The site we're talking about here today is part of the larger Emerald Center, which is, over 100 acres, over 1 million square feet already developed today. Here, we're looking at the parcel that's at the northwest corner of Priest and Warner Drive. It's actually north of the northwest corner. It's Lot 5 of the larger Emerald Center. And of course, lots of folks here know Emerald Center is home to things like IKEA, Lifetime Fitness, Dick's, Main Event, lots of office, restaurant, home furniture, etc. So we're here today requesting 3 things. There's an amended planned area development for the overlay, which allows us to modify some standards to permit multifamily. There's a use permit to allow multifamily. And then there's a major development plan review, site plan as well. What we are here this evening requesting is in conformance with the general plan. So the overall general plan here is mixed use high density, up to 65 dwelling units per acre. Also, if you look at the projected land use map, it also anticipates that there would be density here. Here, our density is shown at 35 dwelling units per acre, but that's, of course, because you take it across all of Lot 5. So if you look even at just the northern portion, it's significantly more dense at 55 dwelling units per acre. So here, again, we're looking at that northern piece. This is what I mean about we're taking the northern half of Lot 5. The southern portion of the Lot 5 will be developed in the future as commercial. So this also shows you that northern acreage, again, 10.89 net acres of that larger 16-acre site. What we are proposing are 2 wrap products with a total of 591 rental units. As I mentioned, that 35 dwelling units per acre across all of Lot 5, but really 55 dwelling units per acre when you look at that northern half. We are looking at a proposed building height of 80 feet. It is actually entitled today across all of Emerald Center for a proposed height, an approved height of 100 feet. There is a full amenity package that's planned as part of this as well. We've got clubhouse, fitness center, resort-style pools and spas, fire pits, lawn games, outdoor kitchens and barbecues, shaded seating areas, and then open space with some turf as well. Here you're looking at some of those amenities in similar products that they have in other locations. The site itself will be accessed off of Priest, Commerce, and Emerald, and then there's an internal private drive that will separate Phase 1 from the remainder of Lot 5, and ultimately be able to connect to the commercial to the south, creating a walkable environment, and really helping this overall Emerald Center and that future commercial thrive by bringing their clients to the site. Here's some of the renderings to give you an idea of what it is we're proposing here. This is here looking down that internal drive. You can see it's well landscaped, lots of trees along the perimeter. In terms of public outreach, we did have a neighborhood meeting back on February 8th of 2022. There was only one resident who attended. Actually, he owned the office condo across the street, and he was in support of the project. There's no known neighborhood opposition. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have and respectfully request your approval.
Speak a little bit more towards, bring up the overall site plan where you show the southern portion that's future development. There we go. So talk a little bit more about how you'll encourage walkability between your project and the future development.
Certainly. So we do know, because this is ultimately a ground lease from the Tates who own this overall project, that piece to the south will be developing as commercial. And you can see that internal drive has sidewalks that come along both pieces. There's been crosswalks that are anticipated there ultimately to connect down to that commercial. So it's intended to really function as ultimately an integrated site as that commercial develops. I don't know the specific users that are coming. We're not here proposing any specific users. We just know we wanted to anticipate how it would be connected in the future.
And that will not be your development, that will be
Correct.
the Tates or someone else.
That's correct.
Okay. Other questions from the commission? Commissioner Schwartz.
Yeah, are any of the proposed access points going to have signals?
So there is, I believe, already a signal that's out at Priest and Commerce Drive. And so no additional signals are proposed as part of this.
Thank you.
There is a fully approved traffic impact study that was submitted as part of this.
There is, commerce is fully signaled. Andy, did you have one? Do you have a question? No? Linda?
I'm just trying to find it. Did I miss a rendering of what the parking garage is going to look like?
So the parking garages are actually wrapped. So they're wrapped by the units.
But what are the residents going to be looking at?
So the residents will be looking out. They won't be looking in towards the parking garage. So the units actually wrap the garage so it's fully screened from the perimeter.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Oh, go ahead, Andy.
It appeared to me that there was rooftop amenities. Is that accurate? Okay, so there'll be both ground level and rooftop amenities?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Johnson, that's correct.
Thank you. Hold tight. Karen?
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Karen Stovall, Senior Planner. I'm going to just briefly cover the project. I think the applicant did a good job. So the site is located at the southwest corner of Priest and Commerce Drive and is zoned RCC and is within the Emerald Center PAD. The applications include an amended planned area development overlay to modify the development standards for density, lot coverage, and parking, a use permit to allow residential use in the RCC district, and a development plan review for a new 5-story multifamily residential development. Again, as the applicant covered, the density proposed is 35 dwelling units per acre. The lot coverage that they're requesting to increase is from 50% allowed right now under the PAD to 55%. And the vehicle parking through a parking analysis is proposed at 1,075 spaces. A neighborhood meeting was required and held in February of '22. Staff attended the meeting, and as the applicant stated, there was one attendee who owned a condo on the east side of Priest who had general questions about the developer, if the units were for sale or for lease, and if there was vehicular access provided to Priest. He did not express any concerns. We did not receive any public input. So staff is recommending approval subject to the conditions, and the applicant has reviewed those conditions. The only unique one we have is to provide a maximum 20% opening for the metal screening at the trash chutes on the roofs of the buildings. I believe right now the plans are showing 80% opening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the commission? Nothing. Thank you. All right. Do we have any cards? Anyone from the public? Anyone online? One card. All right, come on up. You can hand that off, and then,
I'll write it when I'm done.
and all we need is name and city of residence. We don't need an exact.
Cool.
For the record.
My name is Nolan Williams. I live in Tempe. I like this project. We need housing. I think I've heard that we have a 2% vacancy rate. I have family and friends who can't move into the city because they not even can't find a place they can afford, but they literally can't find any open locations. So 591 units sounds great by me. 35 dwelling units per acre sounds great by me.
Do you live close by? Or are you hoping to?
Maybe. I live in Daly Park, and I like Daly Park.
Okay.
But I am zealously and constantly trying to get my friends and family and neighbors to, well, not neighbors. I'm trying to make them neighbors, basically, and it's hard.
I like keep recruiting. That's good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Questions from the commission? None? Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, we'll close the public
Chair-
comment.
Chairman, I
Oh, we
just
did.
wanted to mention, since Dr. Miller is new to commission, he did not know if he could comment on this project, but he just wanted to say that he thought that the design could be a little bit more inspiring. So that was his comments. I wanted to just put it on the record, because he didn't get a chance to talk about it during study session.
Okay, thank you. All right, public comment section is closed. Commissioners, internal discussion, questions? Linda?
I share those same concerns about the design. I would really like to see something that doesn't just look like a box. My other concern, and you touched on it with the signaling, is there is an issue at the freeway with Warner as it stands, and I don't know how that would be addressed, but it seems like we're bringing in a lot of traffic without taking into consideration what's already happening on Warner Road.
And you mean specifically northbound exiting onto Warner as opposed to getting onto the freeway from Warner? I experience that on a regular basis, yes. Other comments, commissioners? We also could entertain motions and get one of those on the table before we finish discussion. I do have, Karen, what were the non-standard, I could scroll through this, but any non-standard conditions of approval that you want to point out to us? Other than the screening for the trash chutes that you mentioned?
No, that was the only one.
Okay. Perfect. Sure. Go ahead, Andy.
I just wanted to echo the aesthetic comments that were made earlier. And as I know the developer is from out of state, so maybe it reflects that area of the country a little bit more than this. But aesthetics are always a really difficult topic to bring up. The other item that I see that would not be my preference, and so this is personal, but there's a lot of artificial turf shown along areas where pedestrians are going to be walking. So if there's a way to work with staff potentially to reduce that, I understand that it can be useful and can be purposeful in many respects, but this looks like it's just kind of carpeted across, especially West Commerce. So those are the comments that I have.
Okay, Commissioner Schwartz.
Yeah, echoing, I feel like it could use some additional architectural design. It feels like some very large building masses that you're going to encounter. Generally, I'm very supportive of the mixed-use development, and I think there's a lot of amenities there that people would really appreciate being close by to. I'm supportive of the parking counts reduction, and just really have an issue with the large building mass.
Ms. Stovall.
Thank you, and Chairman and Commissioners. I just wanted to talk about the comment about artificial turf. There actually is no artificial turf proposed outside the buildings. There are existing landscape berms with turf along all of the street frontages. I don't know of any artificial turf that's shown on the plans that you'd see from the exterior of the buildings.
Thank you for clarifying that. The hash marks from the rendering appeared to be the same as the call out for artificial turf, so that was my assumption.
Okay.
And the way the computer renderings are, it looks fake because it is fake.
Right.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. you know, the reality is, it's not the best application for artificial turf, but given the size and massing of those buildings, there's certain shade areas that you're just not going to get summer turf to grow, and winter turf won't transition through the heat, so I don't know what you do other than xeriscape, and that's probably not friendly either. I'll share a comment, and just for the record, just to put it on the record, it has nothing to do with the design. I have a concern, and I know it's not something that I carry alone, of us continuing to take developable property out of the tax base. So when we take retail property and we take stuff that we plan for office and hotels to go on, and we turn it into apartments, we long-term do a disservice to the economics of running our city. So, but if, and I know there's been a lot of things in the press lately, and I may have even, one day I may have seen your name attached to some of it. Cities need to, you know, we heard from a member of the public that it's hard to find apartments these days, that vacancy is low, and the housing stock, we're still, you know, 100,000 units behind where our city or Phoenix Metro needs to be. But gosh golly, I think that Tempe and Chandler are doing more than their share. If you look at how many apartment multifamily units that we're approving per capita, and we're, you know, 40 square mile city, we've got a limited supply of land to do it. And so when we just keep approving them in land that could be retail or office, you know, that concerns me. But if there was ever a site that it fits, it's this one. The mixed use, unlike a lot of sites we approve, is here already. We've got some great restaurants and entertainment uses, both already in Emerald Center, as well as things that are on the drawing board or have already been approved to build, like Electric Pickle, which I'm anticipating. So I am in support of the project, but boy, I hope we don't take any more of that site and decide to do more apartments on it, because I probably will be less excited about the next case. Other comments? Motions? We really need to have a motion, or we're going to be here a long time tonight. Don Casano, Commissioner Casano.
If nobody can hear me but you, Mike, I would make a motion for approval of Emerald Center PL 220008.
With the conditions of
With the
approval.
conditions, yes, as stated.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second? And it's seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Further discussion before we vote? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Commissioner Spears voting nay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you to the public. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate you coming down. All right, that brings us to item number 8. This is Lincoln South Bank. This is a request for amended PAD overlay and a development plan review for a new 21-story mixed-use development, 352 dwelling units, 2.23 acres. Lincoln South Bank. Mr. Wood.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Nick Wood, Snell Homer 1, Arizona Center, and I represent Lincoln. This is a really interesting site. A little bit about Lincoln. Lincoln is a national developer. They have expertise in high-rise and other types of residential development. We can go to the first slide. This is just our team. Lincoln, of course, being the client, and Hubbard Engineering, which is local, collaborative, as well as being local. The site, I think you're all very familiar with the South Bank area. In fact, you just recently approved a project on Lot 6, which is just, right next door, basically. This site is a very weird dimensional site. It looks kind of like a Tetris piece. Created a little bit of challenge with respect to design, but I think we worked very well and closely with staff to create something that's very unique and special, but very complementary of everything that goes on here. As you are probably aware, this project goes back to the Peabody project in the late 90s. And then, of course, has gone through various iterations. And finally, they ended up doing a improvement district in order to build all the infrastructure. These are all holes that were designed to accommodate high-rise development. There's one project that's very slowly coming out of the ground that's 2 properties away. But I think this one is very complimentary of the site. Here's another example. The Vista del Lago Road is to our east, and then there's, of course, a roadway for fire and other emergency access that we've also taken advantage of. But we front on Rio Salado, and of course, we back up to the lake. Landscape and site plan. As I mentioned, it was interesting to design around the dimensions of the site. But we have a parking structure that basically is 2 levels down and 6 levels up. It'll accommodate 577 cars. I know you heard from Karen that there was an addition to the staff reports. We have actually 577 parking spaces, not just 250. We have amenities that are really at grade level that face the lake. You can see where the pool and spa is. You can see where other outdoor kitchen and other activity area is on the east side. The landscape plan, we have lots of landscaping, trees all surrounding the site. We had a little bit of a challenge around Rio Salado because there's storm sewer that's there. So we couldn't plant trees, but we've got 3 pots that'll have trees in them, as well as lots of landscaping along Rio Salado. We've divided the entryways both for residents, and they'll come in along Vista del Lago, but back of house is along the west side. As you can see here, where trash pickup and loading, it's all internal to the site. None of it is on the exterior. We have a leasing office, business center, conference rooms, clubhouse, and retail. Working with staff, we placed a retail on the east side of the property, so it also has access out to the lake itself. We also have pedestrian access. We have pedestrian access not only along Rio Salado itself, but on both sides of the project, both on the east and the west, with lots of shade, with direct access for the public down to the lake and the frontage. As far as our development standards tables, we have 352 units. Density is 158 dwelling units per acre. The breakup of the units is interesting. We have 16 studios, 198 one-bedrooms, 133 two-bedrooms, 3 three-bedrooms, and then we have what we call 3 bedrooms with a den or a study, but under the code, it's actually called a bedroom, so technically it's a 4-bedroom unit, but it's a 3-bedroom with a den or a study. The height of the tower itself is 255 feet, which again is identical and a little bit shorter than a couple of the other buildings that are there. Lot coverage is 62%, landscape coverage at 21%. Setbacks along the south, of course, we've got 25 feet, so we've got lots of space between Rio Salado and the building itself. Side yard and both east and west, and then street side, and of course rear is 21 feet. We've got 2,330 square feet of retail, and parking, as I mentioned, is 577 spaces, and we've got 352 spaces for bicycle parking. We anticipate there'll be a lot of bicycle use at this particular site at this property. I love the architecture that they did here. We have a combination of your low-rise product, which is 5 stories, and then, of course, 21 stories for the tower. But rather than do typical stucco and other things, they're using brick. There's no stucco really anywhere on these buildings, either on the lower level or on the tower itself. It's all metal and glass, and of course brick on the bottom. What I like about the architecture as well is the articulated surfaces, the depth, the recessed balconies. You know, that's, you're taking up space that, you know, most developers would rather use on the interior, but yet we're making the recess, and it creates protection from sun and heat exposure as well. One of the things that we're going to do is that landscape area that you see between the site and the lake. We have to, of course, work with flood control in order to get approvals for that, but there's a stipulation that covers that as well. And then, of course, the building, lots of glass, floor-to-ceiling glass with lots of lights. And it's a great place to live. I used to be a Tempe resident for years and years, and I recently got remarried, so my wife and I now live in Optima Curlin. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's floor-to-glass ceilings, and we absolutely love it. And this is the same type of quality design and development. As you can see, we have the landscape areas all around as well. Another shot, a little bit closer along the lake, again, showing the articulated surfaces, all of the brick and the metal and the tile and the stone. This is the Rio Salado side. One of the things we did along Rio Salado is to create shade. We have a canopy, and I'll show you another slide for that. But as you can see, we have a nice entry feature coming in, and of course you have the entry into the garage on this side as well, but a nice landscape area and a lot of visual interest, again, with the differences in the articulated surfaces and lines even from the roof line, etc. This is along Rio Salado. This is the shaded area, as we mentioned. What we hope, as more and more of these buildings come out of the ground, especially the ones that you approved just in May, is there'll be lots of pedestrians walking back and forth. We're kind of equidistant between rural and McDowell, and as a result, McClintock. And as a result, we expect to have lots of pedestrians walking up and down Rio Salado, and then, of course, walking down to the lake on either side of our project and through the project as well. Again, just showing you some of the materials. This is the materials for the wood frame side. Again, brick, stone, block, and metal panels and metal railings. Materials for the high-rise. You can see even the balconies have got, the balcony rails are glass, metal panels, and again, staying away from the stucco. With respect to some of the benefits that we're providing, we're actually volunteering to do 18 workforce housing units here, and also 10 charging stations. Now, I drive a Tesla, so having charging stations is a big thing for me, but we're going to provide 10 charging stations for our folks as well. As far as guest parking, we not only have, as you may have read in the staff report, 29 to 30 spaces at ground level, but when people come and guests, like when my wife and I have guests, you know, we'll let them in because we have our own parking spaces, but we're also providing up to 50 parking spaces at the top level of the garage for guests. So we have a total of about 80 spaces for guest parking. We're in agreement with any and all the stipulations that staff is proposing, and with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Commissioners, questions? I'll start off, kind of an easy one. The sidewalk with the shade canopy, can you scroll back to that? That right there. So knowing where the sun comes from and most of the time of year, I see this providing kind of minimal amounts of shade with a southern exposure and an east to west path of the sun. Can you mount this on the south side of the sidewalk? Is there easement there, or are there underground utilities or something that prevents you from putting it on the other side of the sidewalk and cantilevering it so it pushes more shade to the sidewalk?
Well, it's the same issue we have, see, with the potted
trees.
trees. We've got the sewer there, so we have an issue of mounting it. What we may do,
Although
Mr.
the
Chairman.
pylons won't grow, they don't have roots, so they're you can kind of be strategic where you put them.
That's true.
Look at it. I don't know, this probably, I don't know if this is a real shade study, the rendering here, but it just doesn't seem to me with with the summer sun, from the south, that this is going to do much for the sidewalk.
You know, Mr. Chairman, what we may be able to do is work with staff and maybe extend the canopy out farther and maybe have a couple of little carve-outs for the trees.
Yeah.
So that we can just extend it further out. I think that's a very good point.
My biggest questions are suggestions that the staff made that you were not able to accommodate. Can you speak to anything that just didn't work for you?
With respect to the pickup and drop-off area, I think that was the one that we were not able to accommodate. Let me look at those here. So we added the pathways, the loading areas, et cetera, the commercial area. The only thing we didn't is the pickup and drop-off area. So pickup and drop-off, let me go look at that. So as you can see here, we have areas out in front where you can have pickup and drop-off. But if you take a look at the site plan in here, I'll give you an example of what my wife and I do. We just got back from our honeymoon and we were dropped off with Uber from the airport. And what we, up to McKierland, there's a couple of different driveways into the parking structure, and the parking structure there is underground. So we actually have the Uber driver drive in underground, drop us off there. And you can do that here. You can come in to the parking structure itself, and you can see where the lobby is, although it's hard for me to point it out here. But as you drive into this eastern driveway, there's a lobby is right there. So essentially, an Uber driver can come in, pick up or drop off at that location rather than having to do it out on the street. One of the issues we had with the pickup and drop-off areas, you can see on the site plan, there's not a lot of space. This is a very challenging dimensional site. In order to accommodate that, it was very difficult to do.
Okay. The retail space, it's an afterthought. We get a lot of apartment, multifamily developments that are presented to us with just a wink and a nod to the mixed use portion of the development. So by my math, we've got a 2,330 square foot retail space and a 697,000 and change multifamily space, giving us the retail percentage is a little under 0.3% of the project. Did the developer not feel that there was opportunity for public use retail? This 2,300 square feet is a good sized Chipotle. It's nothing. We've got this gorgeous asset that the city's invested in, the lake, and we keep building things on the lake. And to my knowledge, I don't think we have one restaurant or bar that someone can sit at and look at the water. I don't think anything that exists in our city takes advantage of the vista that we've created. I guess if you go to TCA, you can sit at the Center for the Arts, and they've got a little bar if it was open, and you can kind of see the water there if you crane your neck. But this seemed like an opportunity to do something sexy, because you've got a really great approach and embankment to the lake, to do something that the public could enjoy also. All the amenities in this project are strictly for the residents, which is fantastic. It's a nice space for them. But there's nothing here, not even the 2,330 square foot retail space, that I think anyone who's not a resident here will ever enjoy or see. No reason to ever, unless you're a resident, come to this project after it's built. Is there an opportunity to do something more?
Let me ask the boss.
Yeah, and you can come back and, you don't have to get hit cold with that, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. Name and city of.
Yeah, Jim Payton, Denver, Colorado. As we looked at the retail and what the highest and best use for the site was, it really was predominantly multifamily in our view. We worked with staff and followed their recommendation on where they would like to see retail and the amount of retail. We accommodated that. When you look at what's there today, it's not really a retail location. I think when you look at the city of Tempe, there's a need for residential units. There's a lot of other retail opportunities.
But nowhere else that we have the water.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, yeah. It's just Fort Worth, if they've got water, there's probably some better, use of what they put on it. San Antonio, Riverwalk, do they just build giant multifamily projects along it? Or is there some public space where public can come and enjoy it too? I think we're missing the chance. I appreciate it. Thank you. Other questions? Andy.
I have a question for the applicant.
I think, Mr. Chairman, one thing we can do is we have the retail that runs along the eastern side of the building. And then you can see where there's an area that's adjacent to it that actually faces, we may be able to add that for retail.
Yeah, the project that didn't get built, that was the senior living facility, had plans for multiple restaurants that would also be open to the public. And I always thought, other than there was a great need for that kind of a use back then when it got approved, I thought, well, at least, people will come visit Graham and Grandpa and be able to enjoy the beautiful lake. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. But yeah, Andy.
I would support a place to drink on the lake as well. Thank you. I have a question, and I think it's because I'm in the market for an electric car. But you've got a stipulation for 10 electric vehicle charging stations. Probably, I would, and I think it's widely anticipated that the adoption of electric cars is going to increase significantly as the years go on. And with less than 2% of the parking dedicated for electric charging, and say you as a electric car owner, if you were living in this building and you didn't have one of those 10 spots, what would you do? And is there an opportunity perhaps later to add more as the demand increases?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Johnson. Yes, in fact, we have the same thing in Optima. We have the number of charging stations that were created when the project was built. But then they've been able to retrofit additional chargers as more residents are buying electric cars. And we'll be able to do that here as well.
Okay, thank you.
We've actually planned for that in the project. The infrastructure will be in place. We've planned on putting the infrastructure in place to be able to expand electric charging stations as they become more in demand.
Excellent.
Well, above the 10 that are proposed.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions before we bring staff up?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. My name is Karen Stovall, Senior Planner. And again, I will be brief. So the site is located east of Row Road at the northwest corner of Vista del Lago Drive and Rio Salado Parkway. It is currently zoned MU4 PAD and is within the Villas at South Bank Planned Area Development Overlay. The applicant is requesting to amend the existing PAD to modify development standards for density, building height, lot coverage, landscape coverage, building setbacks, and parking, and for a development plan review for new 21-story mixed-use development. The density of the project is is proposed at 158 dwelling units per acre. The building height is 255. The vehicle parking, as I clarified in study session, but will state again, the applicant is actually proposing 577 parking spaces in the garage. The applicant's parking analysis submitted with this application, due to the ratios proposed, would require only 250. but the actual proposed in the garage is 577. A neighborhood meeting was required and held in April of this year. Staff attended that meeting, and attendees asked about just resident amenities and did not express any concerns. We did not receive any direct public input pertaining to the request. We are recommending approval subject to the conditions in the staff report, and the applicant has reviewed those conditions. As far as unique conditions of approval, as mentioned, the 10 electric vehicle parking spaces with charging stations that are to be maintained by the property owner, a development plan review application for landscaping north of the multi-use path is going to also be required, and that the guest spaces on the ground floor have to remain unrestricted. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions? Thank you very much.
My apologies. I did want to respond to the question about relocating the canopy that goes over the sidewalk on Rio Salado. On attachment number 32, it is shown best. There's actually a 25-foot roadway and public utility easement directly north of the south property line. So they would, in order to do that, would have to be placed in that roadway in PUE. And there are very large pipes underground, so nothing is going to be permitted under there. The applicant worked diligently with staff to come to a resolution to provide shade for that sidewalk, and that was something the applicant came up with, and we were very pleased at, at that suggestion, because normally we would only get trees in pots. So having a permanent shade structure like that would really benefit them. So.
Good, thank you. All right, I'm going to call to the public. Do we have anyone who wishes to be heard? Come on up. You'll need to fill out a second card too, but you can do that after you're done speaking.
I'll do these in advance next time.
That's all right.
Hello again, my name is Nolan. Again, I live in Tempe, Daly Park area. I love this project. I like being in this area a lot. 150 dwelling units per acre is phenomenal, and we should have that in as many places in the city as the pipes can bear. And I just want to say I'm in favor of this project and register my concern that in general, downtown Phoenix is overcommitting to the number of parking spaces required and accepted in new developments. And that if in the future we get Prop 400 continued, even though it's been vetoed for now, if it goes forward and we get bus rapid transit on Rural Road and Scottsdale Road, and if we get streetcar extension, that will be a very transit-rich area. And it would be a shame to see too many parking structures, too many parking podiums, and the kind of parking structures that you can't modify or lower if, going forward in the next 20, 30 years. But in general, this is a wonderful project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, do we have anyone online? Okay, we'll close the public comment portion of tonight's hearing on this case. Additional questions from the commission? Linda?
Not really a question. I just hope this project gets built. We've approved how many plans on this, and I go back to the Peabody's. I've been here a long time and looking for completion, so hopefully this can move forward at a reasonable pace.
Should we ask for a condition of approval that there be ducks? Oh, no, that they build it, oh, okay. I thought you wanted waterfowl on the grounds. No. Michelle, did you have a comment or question?
Hello, teachers, students, and parents. I'm Steve Watson, the Maricopa County School Superintendent. And it has been an exciting week as we celebrated Nuclear Science Week. And our office is pleased to host this STEM Pro Live with APS Palo Verde. They are a valued educational resource to connect STEM identity with our students. And you wouldn't think that a nuclear auxiliary operator and a chemistry operations supervisor would have anything to do with the electricity that powers my home and the world around us, but they do. And
This. I do not have an issue with anything that is shown in the design and that is in the drawings. My issue is what's missing from it. I think that at this point, we're still missing an opportunity to invite the public into these projects and invite them down to the lake. We're building projects that just service the people, the residents of the projects, or the office tenants and their employees when we build office. And so I will not vote in favor of the project, but it is not because I see something wrong that's there. It's just there's something missing for me. So I'd call for a motion.
Question. Can we in fact stipulate that we have to have additional space dedicated to mixed use?
Yeah, we could stipulate that, but it's a big ask for an applicant on the fly to be able to accept a stipulation like that. You've got to tighten it up. It can't be so open-ended that we don't know what the stipulation means. I'd welcome if the applicant has any ideas. They've done more of these things than I have. So if you've got any ideas, but again, this is one person's opinion. I don't have more votes than everybody else.
Would it be possible then to do a continuance on the case to see if they can come up with something? Because I agree with you. I think that we require mixed use, but this is a huge development and it seems to be a missed opportunity to do something.
And in many of them, we've seen what's happened with the small amount of retail that has been plugged in. It sits vacant for a long period of time, and then it gets turned into a rec room or a leasing office or exercise space, again, for the unit owners or tenants. Mr. Wood.
Mr. Chairman, in talking to the client, if we could bring up the site plan again, please. One of the challenges we have is if we're going to make any significant modifications and add a lot of retail, we'd have to start all over. There's just, again, I mentioned the fact this is not a square or perpendicular site. I mean, it's like a little Tetris thing. So we've got, we had to work around everything to make the thing function, especially programming. You can see where the hallways go and what's next to and around the hallways. As I mentioned, we could wrap the retail around, to that little box that's there where it says synthetic game event area, so that again we can have some outdoor dining and things with a restaurant. You also, when you approve the project that has the pier and it has the Ferris wheel, there's a lot of retail there, which of course will serve our folks as well as everybody else. So I think I would hope that you wouldn't deny a project of this quality because it doesn't have enough retail, whatever that means. Again, that's where I'm struggling, and I apologize for that. Yeah. But I'm struggling how to respond to say, okay, let's go back and redesign the whole thing after we spent $1 million in this design, and to get to where we are today, only to have the thing denied because we don't have enough retail, but we don't know what enough retail means. Yeah. So again, with all due respect, it's a great project, and we can add some retail in the corner, and we're happy to even work with staff to figure out if we can add some more somewhere. But I really would ask you not to turn this thing down at this level, simply because we don't have enough retail, but we don't even know how much is adequate. So,
well, I don't know how much is enough. I know 2,330 feet in a project of this size is probably not enough in my mind. I like to be able to hope that the next guy next door is going to build the the amenities that balance this project, but I can't count on, that ever happening. So, and I also think that it's an amenity for this project to have incorporated even one, 4,000 square foot open to the public restaurant with outdoor patio seating that adds to what you have on site for the residents, for the renters of this project. I think it gives them a better environment when they can walk downstairs and meet friends for dinner, happy hour, watch a ball game, whatever concept is in there. So no, I'm not, it is not my desire to see this project or similarly quality projects not be built. I just want to encourage developers to do more with these spectacular sites on the water. If this was being built at Emerald Center, the project that was heard right before you would have made, the comments would not be the same.
Yeah.
Because there's no public amenity that we should be designing towards.
Give me 1 minute.
Have you been there lately? They're out of stuff. They got the meatballs, though. You can get meatballs.
We can commit to 4,000 square feet.
I love that.
Perfect.
And a little if there's room to do outdoor, patio alongside it, to make it indoor, outdoor, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
We need a motion? Yes.
No, the other comment I failed to mention before was the workforce housing component. I believe it's the first project along the lake we've seen have that component, and while the numbers are still a lot for most individuals, it does allow people to have that opportunity along the lake. So kudos to the team on that. With that, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve PL 220072 with the added stipulation or condition of 4,000 square feet of retail space.
Do we have a second? It's been moved by Commissioner Schwartz and seconded by Commissioner Spears. Any discussion before we call for a vote? I'll make the comment that if this is built and there's a restaurant on the east side, I will be there on opening night. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carries unanimously 7-0. Thank you very much for working and presenting in what looks to be a beautiful project. Thank you. This brings us to our final item of the evening. This is item 9 on the agenda. This is code text amendments to the Zoning and Development Code. And I don't see Diana. You are not Diana.
I'm here on behalf of Diana.
An ample stand-in. Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. Ryan LeVake, Deputy Director in the Community Development Division. I'm going to present the Zoning and Code text amendment for you tonight. Okay. All right, click. Okay, so we've got before you tonight a wide array of miscellaneous code text amendments in Part 1, Part 3, one section in Part 4 related to parking, some administrative changes in some of our procedural requirements, and some definitions. I'll kind of briefly go over through these. Please stop me at any time if there's some specific areas you want to cover or discuss. But part of these code text amendments have to do with some areas of the code regarding fractions of measurements. So this is a clarifying text amendment on how we calculate areas where you don't have a whole number. So the fraction number goes to the nearest whole number. If it's 0.5, it goes up. If it's 0.4, it goes down. This is providing some clarification in that fraction measurement, as well as how we calculate density for properties. We've got expanded definition on the allowable density so that it's clear to our applicants on how we go through that calculation process. Some changes in the land use standards table for single-family zoning for AG. Retailing of farm products produced on premise, that is changed from use permit to permitted by right, according to state law changes that require us to allow farming products sold on site in agricultural areas. We've also added some new provisions for coffee cocoa roasting as an accessory use to retail restaurant uses. Typically, it's in the code identified as coffee retail roasting, that it requires use permit in industrial, but it's silent in the commercial zoning district. So as an accessory to that restaurant use, we're proposing it as a use permit component to address potentially questions on odor and smell. Additionally, as well, outdoor cooking is becoming more popular, grilling or smoking. So we've added this provision in the code that if any restaurant business that is either outdoors or has a component of cooking outdoors would require a use permit in the commercial zoning districts. Vehicle service, there's a new definition proposed for vehicle services. These are typically your non-vehicle type repair services that are just more complementary components to vehicle usage that would be allowed in commercial zoning district classification. I will note too, and for the purposes of our former commission member, that the vehicle service category does not allow this land use in the transportation overlay district. So it is still prohibited. Again, commercial vehicle services in the mixed use zoning district permitted in MU1, 2, and 3, and use permit in the MU4 and MUED district. And then vehicle service use permit in the general industrial zoning districts and heavy industrial districts. And then again, some changes and corrections in our definitions. We've got a change in auto body repair, provide a little more simplified version of the definition. We don't specifically look at the size of motor vehicles in terms of determining what type of category auto repair is. So we've slimmed down this definition. Also provided some further clarification in the vehicle repair category, and this ties into that new definition we have for vehicle service, which is minor use of minor automotive services such as detailing, windshield replacement, battery replacement, audio accessory installation, and does not include vehicle repair. So it's absent the items that are found in typical vehicle repair land uses. We also have a clarification in the section on single-family residential second-story addition requirements, and this is typically the use permit process. I think about a year ago, we came back to you all, and we had some lengthy discussions about the provisions in the second-story addition. So this has helped to provide some clarity and some direction with applicants when they're processing a use permit and looking at what the criteria would be for appropriateness for making a determination. We've had some clarifications in what types of structures the use permit would qualify for, viewing decks, play structures, and as well detached accessory buildings and structures. We've got a section in there that regarding exceptions. So in situations where the use permit requirement would not come into play, if the home was not occupied by a dwelling that was demolished prior to 1987, then a new home or new single-family second-story building would not require a use permit. But if you had, say, if there was a home there post-1987, that's when the zoning code first came into effect for this use permit requirement.
So that means, Rod, if a home was on the lot, fire, just obsolescence, for whatever reason, it was raised, lot sits vacant for a few years, it comes back, it would still have to go through the process because it had at one point in time.
Correct, yes. If the demolition had occurred during the period where this ordinance was in effect, the use permit provision. So basically any home now that if it was to be demolished and later on at a point in time replaced with a new dwelling, the second 2 stories use permit would be required.
Okay.
And so this section, though, to clarify, that would not apply to existing vacant lots or parcels of land without prior residence, meaning it's always been vacant or part of a subdivision plat that never got a home built on it. That second-story use permit provision does not apply. And it also does not apply to newly subdivided lots, so a new subdivision for single-family use. The section also does not apply to conversions of existing attics where there was no changes into the roof line or the existing residence. So an example might be is just that unoccupied space where they're just doing some conversion of the interior space within the building itself. And then we've added some criteria to help guide the process as we go through the public hearing process. We're looking at making sure the second story is designed to be compatible with the architecture of the residence, that the character within the surrounding residence. We're looking at design considerations for privacy regarding adjacent properties and protection of solar appurtenances on adjacent lots. We're making sure also that there's sufficient parking on the site, on the street frontage, and making sure that basically all the requirements are met for single-family parking requirements for the site. We want to make sure it's not too much of an intensification that the site can accommodate the additional use on the property. And that leads into some of the parking ratio changes. This has come up, and we received some neighborhood concerns regarding homes and properties that have been converted to boarding houses, where they're adding bedrooms into the site to provide more use of more rentals and additional bedrooms. So we're looking at creating some categories into parking requirements for single family. Today, the standard parking requirement is 2 spaces. This provision proposes that a single family bedroom side of up to 5 bedroom would still require 2 parking spaces. But if additions were proposed that into the category of 6 or more bedrooms, then a 3rd on-site parking space would be required for that site. I'll give you some examples. If there was a plan to kind of convert like a carport space or trying to convert the garage into a livable space, but they couldn't accommodate the additional parking, then that's when the trigger of a use permit requirement would come in for parking in your front yard setback. And then we get to hear it and discuss it at a public hearing setting. Another similar case too is where if there's additions of additional bedrooms and there's a second story and they're wanting to provide 6 or more bedroom spaces on the site, but it requires a second story addition. So that's part of the public hearing process that we still have today to discuss those items. This Part 6 provision is our introduction to some changes in the subdivision section. So we're proposing a couple new provisions that allow some administrative decisions of line adjustments, lot splits, and land splits to be reviewed administratively. And we basically and then we're also looking at taking the preliminary plat review process out of the DRC process, making that administrative so that the applicant can be able to take it to a final decision at City Council. Jumping around here, going into Part 6, development plan review. So this is a change, and we did some evaluation and looking at how we can clean this up and make it a little bit more administrative streamlined process to consider all new development and building area modifications up to 5,000 square feet, so that we're not having different thresholds for whether it's just a new building or whether there's a percentage of the expansion of the site. I'll give you an example. A 2,000 square foot restaurant could yield a small modification of even a storage room might trigger a major amendment to the site. And so we're putting this classification of all buildings up to 5,000 square feet to have an administrative decision, as well as up to 5 dwelling units. So changing that number from 3 to 5 dwelling units, and then all minor DPRs at 5,000 square feet. And so the difference between these is basically this commission sees major development plan reviews, whether or not they're just a recommendation to City Council or a final decision at this board. We also have some definitions added for lot combinations, lot splits, and then as well land splits. And so these are intended to be administrative processes where we're talking about properties of no more than 3 parcels of land tracts and no more than 2.5 acres that would allow the administrative process, a more streamlined process for an applicant to get through an entitlement. So in summary, we have the preliminary site plan, preliminary subdivision plat process. This is planning to go to staff for administrative decision that'll allow then the applicant to prepare and finalize a final subdivision plat that still has to go to City Council. Condominium plats still always go to City Council, as well as amended final subdivision plats. And then again, as I mentioned, we're proposing that lot combines and lot line adjustments be as staff administrative approval process, as well as the lot splits. Bedroom addition, this was a new one that was proposed by staff in looking at, when we look at various different types of floor plans and room arrangements. We see a lot of comments and variations in whether or not people are calling it a study room or a den, or maybe it's a workout room, but we needed to create a definition of bedroom for the purposes of basically calculating parking for the site. So there's a lot of components to make sure what triggers a bedroom, that it meets the minimum requirement size for a building code, that it has 2 means of egress, which is also found in the building code, and it has access to a full bathroom on the same floor or within a half floor. And then some examples of if a home office library room is proposed, it may be exempted from the bedroom if they do one of the following items, which is having a wall extended no closer than 3 feet from the height of the ceiling, or if they have a minimum 6-foot wide opening in the door that goes into another room or hallway so that it's not fully enclosed, basically an open area that can be used for the other types of rooms that we wouldn't define as a bedroom. Then we have an addition of building story, which means a building between a floor and a ceiling or roof above, where the floor level, the first story, is at least 6 feet below the adjoining finished grade. Space shall be considered a basement and not counted as a story. This was needed in certain scenarios too, where we had different levels and grades of buildings that needed clarification. We have a definition now for caretaker residence. We needed some clarification on commercial use definition. We had it for the MU Ed zoning district, but we needed just a general one for commercial uses. And then we've got some definitions changes for clarifying on the lot line adjustments, how you measure the rear of a lot. And we've got some new examples, diagrams on how those measurements are provided for basically irregular shaped lots. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on this.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Yeah, earlier on, some of if you have a non-conforming use, say, an example of the smoker outside of a restaurant, what happens in that case where the existing tenant is already doing that?
A good question. So that use will be allowed to remain. So it would be considered legal non-conforming. So as long as they're in operation, they'll continue to be able to use that use. If the site or business goes away for more than a year, then that would trigger the need to comply with the current code standards today. So, if vacant for a year and a half and they want to come back and now do outdoor cooking, the use permit trigger would come into place. Or if they wanted to expand the facilities.
But they don't need to come back and
Not
do
as a
that.
current business, no.
Perfect, thank you.
Other questions? A lot of these are really good. I can remember times we've talked about almost all of these, trying to clarify them over the years, so good job.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions? Anyone from the public want to be heard, ask any math questions? There's geography, geometry, math, everything. All right. Then I will close the public comments section. If we have no questions, we can entertain a motion. Yes, Andy?
I move for the approval of PL 220132.
I'm looking at you, Don. I'm just trying to make sure you're, there we go.
Second
Got
it.
it. All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Casano. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Staff, do we have any other announcements we haven't covered already? Next meeting is?
Chairman, couple of things, and this is something I keep forgetting to mention or send an email, and I will make sure that the outgoing members of the commission also know about this. Some time ago, we had a live entertainment use for Timeout Lounge, and it was given a review period of 6 months administrative review, And I failed in May to inform the commission that we did review it and talked with, made sure with PD, and there were no concerns with that live entertainment. So I wanted to get that update
Where
to
was the
commission.
location roughly? Where was that at?
It's 3129 South Mill Avenue.
I remember, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to make sure that Commissioners Sumners and Amorosi also know about this because it was something that happened in May, and I just kind of slipped my mind. The other one announcement is we do have 2 meetings in August of DRC. The first meeting is August 9th. And where is my agenda? It's compared to tonight, it's gonna be very, very short. There are only 2 agenda items, an use permit to allow a secondhand retail store at Subjective Vintage 944 South Mill Avenue, and a request for use permit to allow a second-story addition to the Abdel Malak residence located at 931 East Weber Drive. Those are the 2 items for the August 9th meeting, and no study session to date that I'm aware of, but we will inform you if there is a study session presentation.
All right, thank you. And the next meeting is on the 23rd?
That's correct. And Chairman, I will go ahead and, since we have new commission members, I wanted to just make sure they knew, but I would just put a calendar note on everybody's because there are those 2s a month or once a month, so that will jog your memory. So I'll send you a meeting invite so that it's on your calendar and you know when those meetings are. I think August is the only 2 meeting month. After that, I think it's once a month, but there are some restrictions on those with the faith-based calendars that we have to coordinate. So I'll make sure that you have those dates so you don't have to think about it as the meetings come about.
And do we have any conflicts for any election events? We're getting to that time of year where sometimes we get bumped from chambers?
It's a very good question. I know we carefully think about it during the presidential elections, but I will double check on that and make sure for the November election, midterms elections. So I'll make sure of that and let you know in case we need to change that date, we can do that.
All right. Commission members, anyone have anything to say?
Congratulations to Andy.
Yes, Andy, congratulations. Thank you for volunteering. Yes. And great to have some of the new appointees join us, as well as getting to see some faces we haven't seen for a while. So I think we're in good hands and should be a good year. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.